Hey guys, welcome back to Golden Aesthetics. This is Artemus Dolgin. This is probably one of the saddest podcasts I've ever done in my life. It's been 12 days since the war started in Ukraine, and I'm partially Ukrainian, partially Russian. And I didn't think that it would affect me this much. You know, when you read about some kind of a conflict or war in another country, you feel sad, you feel compassion, but you don't really feel it. This has been the most devastating time of my life. Considering everything else that's happening to me, to have this on top of everything, to have this war in your home country, when you call your parents and they're hiding in the basement, and you hear the sirens, and then explosion goes off, there's some kind of an instinct that you can't quite explain, and I felt it. And it took me 12 days to actually sit down and share with you my point on the situation. And in any shape or form, I can state with confidence that what I think is 100% correct. And I have changed my mind, and I think only fools don't change their mind, probably 10, 15 times. Because of studying the conflict, knowing the history of the conflict, knowing the politics of the conflict, and so forth. But the sense of tragedy and grief that conquered my soul was devastating. I've never felt anything like this. And it's been getting progressively worse as I got depressed. I don't want to do absolutely any type of work, any kind of training, any kind of dieting. I just want to be with my people and make this stop. Make this stop at all cost. You have to understand that for the war to happen, both parties have to be ready to engage, because neither of them compromises. So the propaganda that you hear here in America is the same propaganda that kept you at home for 2 years, that made you wear a mask, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Propaganda that doesn't fucking follow the science or even a fucking common sense. And you ate that propaganda. And you eat this propaganda now. And there is a goal behind this propaganda: to manipulate, to scare, disorient, to misplace your confidence, your mind, your attention, your time, your engagement, and your energy. And you have to understand that the West has contributed to that war a lot. And you know what? I was supporting Putin before this war. I was so sure that he is a very strong politician, that he's a strong leader, and he built Russia back up after it fell apart, after the Soviet Union fell apart, because Russia was falling apart with Yeltsin. And Putin seemed like a strong politician that actually made Russia a superpower, or what it seems to be. In the West, is now considered to blame Putin for the entire conflict, and make him look like a Hitler and make Russians look like savages or whatnot. And there's a tendency I see that people are having a certain attitude towards Russians, the entire nation. And it has been shaped by propaganda on TV because Russians that live in Russia don't feel that way. And I don't know what this disturbance is for. If there is anything else that goes behind the scene, and this is another distraction, or this is another tactic to scare and manipulate the population and introduce some kind of solution to this practice, so people really accept this control over them. They will just trade their safety and trade their imaginary safety and fake safety for control, and giving their rights and freedoms away to be completely controlled by one electronic passport that's going to track your financial records, your medical records, your private records, and you're going to be fully controlled, and you'll be on the switch. They can turn off your finances, they can turn on your finances, they can do absolutely anything. And this is what we are heading to. You can look at the tendencies around the world, what the governments have been doing in Australia, what the government has been doing in Canada. You can't deny that. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, what the fuck, I don't give a fuck who you are as a human being. You have to recognize the total corruption and dictatorship by every single government in the world, including this country. Look at these buffoons that run this country, you know, to listen to them, to see what kind of economy they took us in just a year of time. The inflation is record. You know, the gas prices are skyrocketing. Inflation is unstoppable. It's racing. It's the highest it's ever been. The prices have the highest ever been. And I don't know how much more it takes for people to wake up and see the corruption and see that we've been taken to this situation. But again, that there is an agenda of 2030. And I think every one of you, like boys, guys, brothers and sisters, you have to tune into it. You have to be aware, and you have to adapt to what's about to happen to the world. And when you listen to Klaus Schwab, and you know, it all sounds like a fucking crazy conspiracy theory for a lot of people. But if you look at the changes that happen around the world, they tell you about everything they're gonna do. And I fucking seriously got so disoriented in the past 12 days because I've been fucking tuned in the news about Ukraine fucking nonstop, calling people, and I'll tell you a few really fucking crazy stories. And I got completely distracted from my real life, and I just gave my whole energy away, and I fucking went bananas, went crazy. Didn't want to eat, none of that. It had such a big fucking disturbance in me. And I feel like it's all by design. Like, these people who run this show that's happening to us, they have a fucking super powerful psychological warfare. They have all these techniques and they understand how to run human consciousness and human psychology. And people think it's some kind of a conspiracy theory because the government made such a great job to convince them that the government wants to take care of them. You know, and I can fucking feel it, dude, in my fucking bone, that there is a black swan coming. Some kind of a cyber attack, just like Klaus Schwab said. Some kind of a cyber attack. And that's going to take down continents and disturb internet. And in order to get by internet, we'll have to give away our freedoms and stuff like that, and give our records and our IDs and stuff like that. I mean, it's coming. And I've been thinking about it more and more, especially considering the events in Ukraine. I'm like, man, I feel like this is like all coming to fruition. and I need to stack up on my dry foods and my batteries. I need to stack up on some natural gas. I mean the gas tanks and stuff, so I can cook some food and water supplies, shit like that, gasoline. Thinking about my plans of leaving the town, when to leave the town, and when I'm gonna have to, because you would want to be around self-sufficient natural sources, and being by the farm and being out in the wilderness, because this is how you can self-sustain life, because the cities are going to be in complete chaos, and that's what I think the government wants. And I think this is where we go into, and this whole situation, the war in Ukraine is not just one mechanism. It's so connected to everything else around the world, to all these economies and sanctions and relationships and geopolitics and weapon trade. Like, this is such a complex issue, and why Putin attacked Ukraine, there are so many reasons for it, with NATO expansion and Ukraine being pumped with arms. And even the Cold War, it didn't really stop. The West and the East, they were always fighting for dominance, which is, I would rather say that America more so fighting for dominance rather than Russia on this type of arena. And there are so many moving parts to it, and people are so quick just to judge by what they watch on TV. But you have to understand, everything that you see on TV is just an agenda for you to think about the situation in a certain way and develop a support to a certain political group and what they're doing with their decisions, even though it's not in your best interest. And here in America, people look at Ukraine like it's another teleshow, like a TV show, just another agenda, and they'll have all this politics, and Trump, you will never get into the situation, and Biden, let's go get him, just crazy political drama and theater that happens around this event. Give them more arms, give them more fucking weapons, let's fucking give them the airplanes and give them more money. Zelensky is the fucking a hero. Dude, he is sending his people to die. He's picking the fight that he's not going to win, and they're still going to negotiate in the end of the day. But he's not a hero. The guy was a stand-up comedian, and everybody says, oh, he's a chill guy. He's not fit to run the country. He's been a stand-up comedian all his life. He has no political experience, no diplomatic experience. You cannot just be a president of the country. It just doesn't work that way. But, I heard this saying somewhere that the people that chose a clown to be a king are stupid people. And I don't want to call Ukrainians stupid, but I just don't want people to have expectations for the man to make the right decisions for this country, because I think safety and liberty of his freedom is number one. And there are other political interests, they're fucking important, but to save people from war, this is number one. But if you're going into that extreme, then you agree for the violence that's going to take place just as much as the other person agrees to attack. As I said before, the political reasoning around this situation is so complex, because they said that they discovered lots of oil in Crimea and lots of natural gas in the east, and they will disturb Russian supply of their energy sources to Europe and America, and it will significantly impact Russian economy. And Russian population is in a decline. So maybe that's why Putin decided to be in a strategic time to attack Ukraine. And there is also a water channel that's been cut off by Ukrainians to Crimea, and Crimea is going through the driest season in their history, and they need that channel to be reinstated so they can resupply water to Crimea. And they also want to pump oil over there, so they need this supply. There is a lot of macro elements and micro elements that go into this. And you know what? As I said, I've changed my mind so many times during this 12 days, talking to so many different people and listening to so many different podcasts and looking into the literature. I mean, looking into the history of Ukraine and knowing the changes that Ukraine is going through and the propaganda that's been blossoming in Ukraine against Russians and same thing in Russia right now. It's truly actually remarkable to watch this whole thing at work, right? Because I'm here in America and I'm able to see three different sides of the story: American, Ukrainian, and Russian, and you can really clearly see the difference in manipulation by certain party or a certain side in order to achieve a certain reaction and attitude from people and support from people of whatever nation. And you have to be able to really see through all that, to scan through all that information and never ever go to the extreme of taking a side without carefully understanding the conflict, understanding the history of the conflict, history and tradition of that particular region, especially neighboring with Russia, and what strategic importance Ukraine has for the West and the NATO against Russia. There are so many different aspects that go into this, so you can't really just jump the gun and say Putin is a fucking Hitler and we have to fucking defeat him. You know, this is also just one-sided propaganda because, I mean, America has been involved in so many different conflicts, and we were not posting the flags of the countries that had been bombed and civilian people were dying, and America was directly involved, and they were the murderers of all those civilians. But for some reason, it wasn't as populated on TV and social media and stuff like that. So I have noticed such a tendency of people posting all this like virtual signaling every time there is a black square on Instagram or BLM or LGBTQ, like all these flags, and people are posting this over and over. Now there's Ukraine. That just tells you about the consequence of that propaganda of that's happening on TV news that are pushing just one narrative. And people are just doing this because that's what they've been addressed to do. That's what the media wanted them to do. You know, this is how they produce this massive effect on human consciousness and the idea that they want you to support. You know what? This war, it caught people by surprise. And that's another thing that I want you to take a journey with me, because, as I said, you don't know how it feels when your country or your ethnic group is in war with one another, and when your parents are scared, when your relatives are scared, when your friends are scared, when you hear the sirens, when you talk to your father, and as I said before, all those things are so fucking powerful as emotions. It really made me connect with my people on a whole another level. And it's truly the experience I never thought that I would go through. And it caught so many people in different parts of Ukraine in completely different situations. So somebody is going through a financial hardship, someone is going through a breakup, somebody just going to school, someone that just was born, someone that just had a kid, or his mom is sick or his dad is sick. People got caught in so many tragic situations without war, but to put war on top of that, it's crushing human beings. And I can feel it, and I can see it, and I can experience it. This is such a horrific event for absolutely anyone. And for you to sit there and say, yeah, give them more weapons, let's kill Russians, you're igniting even more war. You're igniting even more death. Anyone that supports war is not fit for a modern society. This is beyond me, beyond me. Like, let's go kill more people. This is beyond me. There's always talks. There's always peace talks. In this time of our history, there have to be peace talks. There has to be compromise to save human life. And how, you can make a movie out of the stories that I hear. And I have this, urge to help. And I don't usually donate money to all the donations and stuff like that. I don't do them for like big companies or whatnot. I just try to help individuals, people that I know, maybe my friends, my relatives, because I know that this is going to go for them and they're going to benefit from it. And that's what I've been doing. But if you guys can donate to some funds for Ukrainian people, they really need that because they are misplaced. Their economy is going to suffer. Ukrainian economy is always going to collapse too. And I don't know if Europe really going to help rebuild Ukraine. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think that Putin is going to go to the end. How it's going to play out, God only knows. I hope not a lot of people die. I hope nobody dies, really, but it doesn't seem like they want to stop this war because they keep pumping Ukraine with arms. We keep supplying them with arms, and we want to keep this thing going. Otherwise, we can step in and invite them to the peace talks to have Biden and everybody else sit down and just discuss NATO, discuss all these agreements, hear out Russia, and televise their point of view and what Putin is saying and what he's been saying for many years. All of that has to be taken in consideration, and everybody has to discuss and put it out there, but it's not happening because they're not interested in it. And you as American, like sitting here, as I said, like for you it's like another TV show. Like people are just having this drama about it, but there is like, dude, it's fucking tragedy. It's horrifying shit, And all these photos, as I said, of President Zelensky on the front lines, those are photos of him on the border last year. He's not a hero. And it's all staged. There's so much propaganda. There is so much fake news. There is so much fake videos. But there is one fucking thing and one reality. There are people dying, and they're just playing this game. So they don't really give a fuck about human life, and they will blame each other, and they will play this game, and but the prices keep on going up. I don't know what's the end goal. We can just maybe assume, but I feel like we have to be ready for the new world to come. And many of us will be wiped out. Most of the middle class will be wiped out. And how I'm going to get ready for it myself, how I'm going to prepare my parents, my family for this change. And I start thinking about it more and more now, and I feel like I'm mobilizing. I was really, for these 9 days, I couldn't move, man. And now I'm starting getting grip of my life again. I was like, dude, no. I gotta fucking start getting my shit ready. I gotta start hustling again and try to make as much money as I can and get supplies and help my parents out, and keep moving forward and just not stopping because I'm a hustler, and that's what really determines, and as I said before, that's what really separates you from a real hard motherfucker or just a regular average dude. Because a lot of people are going to fold, a lot of people are going to get wiped out. And hustlers, they strive, and they survive at any situation because it's your nature. And it's in my nature. I'm going to survive this. A lot of people won't. And I'm just telling you right now that something is about to happen, something really fucking big. I don't want to be, like a guy that talks about negativity or attracts negativity. I think this is just a logical sequence of events that have been taking place. And I'm just strictly looking through that point. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about everything. And but everything that I've been talking about for the last 2 years, everything is coming to fruition. Everything is happening in front of our eyes, especially with humanity allowing for conflict of this magnitude and this time of age take place right after pandemic. And pandemic right now completely ignored, disappeared, and nobody is getting sick anymore, and that's it. It's just very strange that it's happening like this, and we as a thinking human beings, people that are aware, people that are conscious of what's going on, and they're looking at this situation from a different point of view, not what the narrative tells them to do, and they're not taking these extreme sides. Those people have to understand, adapt, and be ready for what's going to be next for humanity. For me, I just have to really, I always kind of like go back to my roots. When shit goes down, I'll go back to my roots. Training, discipline, schedule, work, hustle, look for new sources of income, and just keep moving forward, getting better. And that's what I feel like I have to go back to, just back to my roots, back to the discipline, just hardcore training, because that what keeps me really, really in check and gives me power and will to overcome absolutely anything that stands in my way. You know what? The tragedy that Ukrainian people are going through, I can really fucking feel it and tell you this is the deepest pain I ever felt. Like, I'm very, very sorry, and my heart goes out to people in Ukraine, because no matter what political stance you are, you always have to feel for people, no matter what. Like, I'll compromise absolutely any point of view, any political standing to save people. I wouldn't compromise human life. This is impossible, and that's what's happening to us right now. It's truly horrific, and I've been very, very much affected by it. And especially knowing that my parents been involved in this, and thanks God they're in safety, but just knowing that your mom and dad is packing whatever they can in their little suitcase and leave their house behind, leave their fucking business behind, and going into unknown. It's a great thing that they got us, and we can somehow organize stuff and help them out. But there are so many people that have no way to leave the city, to leave their town, because they're disabled, or they have kids that are disabled. There's so many different scenarios and situations of a human drama, and those people are suffering right now, and I can really feel it. I feel this pain. I feel it pain very deeply in my heart. And I'm also exploring something about myself as well during these situations, because the way your body responds to it, the way your psychic responds to it, your soul, it only adds to the experience of being a human being. And I'm embracing it as well, because it allows me dig into my human nature a lot more. I know that many people would expect some kind of more of a one-sided sort of approach, or should be I lay towards Russia or Ukraine or the West. But after analyzing this whole information, knowing that absolutely every single side is to blame, I just feel for the people, and I will forever feel for the people. I feel sort of my duty at some point to go back to Ukraine and help them rebuild the country, help them rebuild the mentality, mindset of the younger generation. And same thing goes for Russia, because both countries are very dear to me. Even though a lot of people right now are taking sides and hating each other, I love Russia and Ukraine both, because there's both bloods in me. And I embrace both cultures, I embrace both traditions, I embrace both people, and my heart is with them right now. I appreciate you guys watching my podcast like that. I know how If you made it all the way to this point, I really appreciate you listening. My take on this, because as I said before, you cannot just look at this situation just from one angle. There are so many different moving parts that you have to take into consideration and condemn war, and not feed into this propaganda that we need to help Ukrainians with more weapons because it only ignites more death, and yeah, Ukraine is on a spiral, their economy in a spiral. I think Russia has more chances of surviving this thing because they're such a big country. It can be self-sufficient country, and they have Chinese ally than Ukraine. But it's useless, senseless war, and there is no justification for it. Never, at any point, on any way, on any side. Absolutely, there is no justification for human death. If you guys know any funds that look for donations or organizations for Ukraine, if you see them around, trustworthy ones, most definitely donate whatever you can because those people really need help. And if you know someone personally, try to help them out, reach out to them, ask them how they're doing. It's so important this time. You know what? I've also, among all these horrific events of war, I've also seen human spirit striving and merciful, full of mercy and full of compassion and full of love towards each other and selfless help. Selfless help. Because as I said, like, when somebody calls me and say, hey, bro, can you help me out with this? I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, of course. There's no question about it. Anybody that ever reached out to me, I always says to them, how can I help? Because this is war, man. This is war. And you never say no when somebody goes through it because, motherfucker, that's the biggest tragedy that can happen to absolutely fucking anyone. God forbid, man, for you even to experience the horrific fear that word does on people. God forbid. God forbid. And as I said, this has been very, very hard on me. Extremely hard. But I kind of made up my mind, and I know that I have to get a grip, and I have to be stronger, and I have to help people that I left behind, people that will go back when everything is over. As I said, I feel a duty of going back home and raising their mentality and help people out rebuild the country. As I said, I wouldn't fight. A lot of people ask me, would you do that? Unless there was a direct genocide against Ukrainians, yeah, I'm talking about massive genocide, right? Like Second World War type of genocide. I would definitely go back and fight and protect. But this is a different type of war. This is a different kind of war. And I feel like my contribution would be ultimate and selfless help and selfless sacrifice for the well-being of the younger generation in Ukraine and in Russia. Because I feel like freedom begins in your heart and then happens in your mind. And I want to teach people a different mindset. As I said, I called my friends and my family that escaped, and they're all at the beginning of a new life, right? And all of them are very much stressed out because some of them have no money and they have to rely on the help from their friends and their family. And you have to understand that some people don't feel that great to ask money for anyone, especially if they used to make money or they have some kind of a sense of self-worth or pride. They wouldn't want to ask someone, and especially we have that in our blood. But you still try to convince some dude you're okay. And they're so disoriented that you have to tell them that, dude, imagine this is a movie, and this is when the movie starts, right here. Movie starts right here, and this is it, man. This is you have to deal with it, and become successful and make the best you can out of whatever fucking happened to you. And I think this is the best way and the best mindset to approach absolutely any situation and make the best of it, because we have absolutely any capability of doing that as human beings. And as I said, going through all these emotions and feelings and supporting people unconditionally with a big heart and love makes you definitely a better human being. And I'm thankful to everyone that came into my life. And as I said, like calling people I haven't talked to for 15 years in Ukraine, my relatives, reconnecting with them, because this is where our roots are, in our family. And if you grow apart from your family, you don't have the strength, you don't have that power, because you're far away from your roots. And that's what makes us strong, the unity, especially unity of the family, because the family is a foundation of every society, a strong foundation. And we are so separated by our opinions and beliefs and agendas and narratives and propaganda that we lose that connection. And I've lost that connection with my relatives. And when I call them this time around, I regained that connection, regained that strength that comes from the bond within the family. And it's very, very important. And I got to feel that as well. I'm just really, as I said, dude, I wear a heart on my sleeve. And what I'm telling you right now is a true experience of mine that I'm going through and sharing with you. So I really appreciate you guys spending this time with me, listening to me, and maybe looking at this situation from a different standpoint in order to really understand what processes and what events took us to this war. You have to look into making a research and truly understanding the reasons behind it. But it's not just a narrative that you see on American TV or Russian TV or any other TV. It's a propaganda, and you have to look way through it. Thank you guys so much, and I think our battery died. Our battery died in that fucking microphone. Shit. It was such a good podcast though, huh? I hope it's not over. I hope your microphone is recording on your camera now. We might use that. I'm sorry, guys. I just noticed. I don't know how long I fucking talked, but my microphone died. Just look over there and this thing is off. Next time it has to be. I thought of it. It crossed my mind. But anyways, I hope you hear me, because we're not going to re-record it. I appreciate you one more time, guys. Prayers for Ukraine. Donate whatever you can, and I love you all.